Welcome back to the dark and thrilling world of Overlord. In Season 4, Ainz Ooal Gown's power continues to grow, bringing new alliances, fierce enemies, and complex challenges. If you've missed any of the action from the previous seasons, don't worry. I've recapped them all, and you can find the full playlist linked in the description. Also, keep in mind that the events of the Overlord Sacred Kingdom movie take place after Episode 8 of this season, adding even more depth to the story. So let's get started with the recap.
求めているものはたった一つ、幸せだ。
Ainz is depressed to be surrounded only by loyal servants and misses his former guild members. Ainz establishes an orphanage in Rantel to identify talented individuals at a young age for the benefit of Nazarick. He also hires widows of the dead Re-Estize soldiers as workers to provide them with a living. Albedo clashes with Aura over spending time with Ainz, making Ainz consider sending Aura and Mare to the Dark Elves to make friends. Albedo reveals Rantel is suffering a lack of resources as merchants are too scared to visit now Ainz is king. Albedo is granted permission to visit Re-Estize. As Pandora's actor still has an annoying personality, Ainz suggests he would be proud if he grew beyond his original programming, though he asks this be kept secret in case the Floor Guardians think he is showing favoritism. Pandora's actor reveals that, while posing as Momon, many humans have been asking him about Ainz. Ainz worries the Floor Guardians still see humans as lesser creatures. Ainz approaches Ainzak, master of the local adventurers' guild. Since Ainz's Death Knights keep the peace, a lot of the adventurers' security work has dried up, so Ainz asks to absorb the guild into his kingdom and put the adventurers to work exploring unknown lands and establishing diplomatic ties with undiscovered kingdoms. Ainz announces his plan now is to rule both human and non-human species in a kingdom where all can live together in peace. Ainz worries his plan to establish a peaceful kingdom might clash with his servants' plans for world domination. Princess Renner establishes an orphanage in Re-Estize to identify magically talented orphans. As Prince Barbro is still missing his brother, Zanak becomes acting crown prince of Re-Estize. Deeply affected by Gazef's death, Brain seeks out children with sword skills to potentially replace Gazef. Albedo arrives in Re-Estize and meets with Zanak. At her welcoming party, a minor noble named Philip Montserrat, enamored by Albedo's beauty and seeking to improve his family standing, invites Albedo to a party. His father is furious as Philip's older brother died fighting against Ainz, but Philip is adamant establishing a relationship with the Sorcerous Kingdom will benefit them. A rich commoner named Hilma Signeus has been supporting Philip financially and hopes to profit from him. Albedo is completely disgusted when Philip touches her, but Philip, believing he made a good impression, shares with Hilma his plan to seduce and marry Albedo. Hilma and Albedo secretly meet with the nobles who actually matter and begin planning to alleviate the shortage of supplies in Rantel. Princess Renner, who established the orphanage under Ainz's orders, is rewarded by Albedo for her loyalty. Before Albedo had departed for Re-Estize, Ainz gave her a world item, Ginungagap, to prevent the brainwashing that affected Shaltir. Albedo was then surprised when, after requesting a goodbye kiss, Ainz kissed her on the cheek. Elsewhere, the cardinals of the slain theocracy discuss the Sorcerous Kingdom and Emperor Jerknev. Their spy, the Thousand League astrologer, secludes herself in despair, having seen Ainz use 11th tier magic to massacre 130,000 men. Without enough information, the cardinals decide to spy on Jerknev. Meanwhile, Jerknev is unable to handle the stress of dealing with Ainz, and losing the war has caused his hair to begin falling out. Jerknev hopes the slain theocracy will be his secret allies against Ainz, so he hires the adamantite adventurers Silver Thread Bird as guards while meeting their representatives. At a gladiatorial display in the Colosseum, Jerkniv meets the representatives, but in the Colosseum, the Empire's strongest gladiator, the Warrior King, is suddenly challenged by Ainz. Jerkniv panics as he believes Ainz somehow manipulated the entire meeting to force Jerkniv to either support Ainz or publicly betray him and ask the Theocracy for an alliance. The Theocracy accuse Jerkniv of conspiracy, but remain steadfast in opposing Ainz, who, as an undead, is the enemy of their temple. Following Albedo's departure to Re-Estize, Ainz decided upon a publicity stunt to show his power and mercy. Along with Ainzak, Ainz smuggled himself into Jerkniv's empire. Ainzak pointed out hiring experienced adventurers could be problematic, so it would benefit Ainz to train amateurs. Ainz decided a fight in the Colosseum would advertise to potential trainees, so Ainzak set up a meeting with a fight promoter. Ainz met with Fluter to gather information and rewarded his loyalty with a book detailing the exact nature of souls. Meeting Osk, the fight promoter, Ainz takes an interest in a rune-crafted sword from the Dwarven Kingdom. Osk arranged for Ainz to fight the Warrior King. Now, in the present, Ainz meets the Warrior King, a troll named Kugane who is quite intelligent. Deciding he likes Kugane, Ainz offers to hire him should Kugane lose their fight, and he agrees. For the sake of fairness, Ainz uses no high-tier magic and equips Clementine's triple daggers. Kugane is thrilled to have faced someone of Ainz's strength. Ainz kills Kugane and announces to the audience his desire to train adventurers to explore the entire world and that they need not fear death in his service. Out of desperation, Jerkniv requests the Empire become a vassal state of the Sorcerous Kingdom. Ainz hesitates but agrees to negotiate the details. Jerkniv hopes to survive by being useful as one of Ainz's servants. Albedo suggests to Demiurge that Ainz is unhappy with his plans, and Ainz wants him and Albedo to arrange for the Empire to become a vassal state. Ainz hopes to make an alliance with the Dwarven Kingdom to gain access to their rune technology. He takes Aura, Shaltir, and Lizardman Zenberu, who has experience with dwarves. Ainz hopes the experience will broaden Shaltir's mind. In private, Ainz reveals the runes are from the Yggdrasil game and wonders if it was another player who taught them to the dwarves. They arrive at Feoredo City, but find it abandoned except for Gondo Firebeard, a dwarf miner. Ainz explains his interest in an alliance and in runes. Gondo admits not many runesmiths remain since it is easier to use enchantments, and dwarven society has been in decline for years. Ainz offers his support in helping the dwarves recover their pride, so Gondo swears loyalty. They encounter Quagua, a race of mole people who eat metal to make their fur impenetrable. Ainz orders Shaltir to capture them alive. Ainz learns the Quagua are a support force for an army led by clan lord Pe Ryuro, who, at this very moment, is leading an army to destroy what is left of the Dwarven Kingdom. The Quagua army attacks the stronghold Feogera. Ainz arrives and offers assistance to the general, who is so desperate he accepts immediately. Ainz Death Knights push the Quagua back, but two of them are destroyed when Quagua pack leader Yodes destroys the bridge they are standing on, dropping them into a bottomless chasm. Ainz offers the Dwarves' Regency Council a trade alliance as well as Ainz's guarantee of protection. Ainz also offers to reclaim the dwarven royal capital of Feoberkana from the Quagua, despite the Quagua's numbers and a frost dragon living nearby, in exchange for all runesmiths relocating to his kingdom. Despite their reservations, the council agrees. Ainz meets the runesmiths and informs them he wants them to totally revive their craft, and they gladly accept. Gondo is touched that rune crafting, an art practiced by his family for generations, will be saved from decline. He also offers to act as guide to the royal capital in exchange for Ainz's complicity in stealing a valuable book on runes from the treasury. Ainz instructs Shaltir on strategic thinking in case they meet whoever killed the two Death Knights. Yos reports his defeat to Pe Ryuro, who visits the frost dragon Olisir Dark in the royal palace, hoping to persuade him to attack the dwarves. Olisir Dark sends one of his sons, Hegenmal, an overweight coward. Hegenmal is so scared he immediately surrenders to Ainz. After killing Olisardark, Ainz helps Gondo steals the runebook. Shaltir is wary of whoever killed the Death Knights, until Aura reveals Ainz always knew the Death Knights fell into the chasm. He just hid this so Shaltir would think there was a strong enemy, requiring her to think strategically. By Ainz's orders, Shaltir offers Ryuro a choice. Either all 60,000 Quaggoa swear loyalty, or she will kill all except 8,000 males and females and 2,000 children. Ryuro chooses to fight, but is devastated when Shaltir kills 50,000 Quaggoa. All dragons swear loyalty to Ainz, except one of Olisardark's sons, whom Ainz kills when he attacks him. Ryuro swears loyalty, and Ainz promises both dragons and Quaggoa will prosper in his kingdom as long as they remain loyal. Ainz summons Demiurge to report on progress with the Roble Holy Kingdom. Demiurge is impressed Ainz now has both the Empire and the Dwarven Kingdom's loyalty, and through a series of misunderstandings, believes Ainz has formulated plans for at least the next 10,000 years. Demiurge manipulates the Roble Holy Kingdom into trading with the Sorcerous Kingdom. Philip becomes the new Baron Montserrat, but his farmers are unable to farm as much food as Ainz undead, and his finances suffer when Ainz gives food to the Holy Kingdom for free, so they stop buying from Philip. One of Ainz's food deliveries is stolen and the theft traced back to Philip after Albedo and Ainz interrogate Hilma. Hilma is surprised when Ainz blames himself instead of her and becomes devoted to him. Albedo explains to the Floor Guardians that Philip was supposed to incite the commoners into rebelling against the nobility. Ainz would then peacefully absorb Re-Estize into the Sorcerous Kingdom, but Philip provoked war instead. Ainz agrees an example is required, but privately is not happy his plan failed. Ainz sends a letter to the Re-Estize king, warning that the Sorcerous Kingdom, Baharuth Empire, Dwarven Kingdom, Dragon Kingdom, Roble Holy Kingdom, and a powerful figure called the Faceless all hold the Re-Estize Kingdom responsible for the attack on the transport and may declare war. King Ramposa, Zanak and his ministers are trapped between fighting a war they cannot win or blaming everything on Philip and hoping Ainz shows mercy. Albedo arrives and is surprised when Ramposa offers his own head in exchange for mercy for his kingdom. Albedo refuses Ramposa's head and declares war on Re-Estize, though she promises Ainz will use no higher-tier spells. Brain, who now holds Gazef's sword, Razor Edge, decides to evacuate his sword students out of Re-Estize. Demiurge moves soldiers to surround Re-Estize, preventing other countries interfering. Ainz worries victory will be too easy. Since more can be learned by experiencing failure, the Floor Guardians won't actually learn anything if they win without trying. At Pestonia's request, Ainz visits the frozen prison on Nazaric's 5th floor to see Negredo, Albedo's older sister. Negredo and Pestonia wish for Ainz to stop massacring humans, as they believe humans have infinite potential that Ainz is wasting. Ainz agrees, but points out the need to set an example of what happens to kingdoms who oppose him. He decides to massacre the coastal city of Ainz Ooal, but leave some humans alive. Count Niall hires the 4 armaments, Mithril-level adventurers, to protect Ainz Ooal. 4 armaments are almost overwhelmed by 2 of Ainz's Death Knights, but are saved when the Death Knights are easily destroyed by an Adamantite-level adventurer wearing red flying armor from the adventurer party Drop of Red. Ainz, recognizing the armor from Yggdrasil, lets Ainz Ooal survive and moves his army to the Re-Estize capital to destroy it. The Blue Roses and Drop of Red, whose armor-wearing leader Azuth is Lachius's uncle, are summoned to meet a special forces group from the Theocracy, the Black Scripture, who ask them to switch loyalty to the Theocracy to fight Ainz, but they refuse. Azuth plans to fight Ainz alone to save Re-Estize. Zanak meets with Ainz and demands to know why Ainz has ignored his attempts to surrender. Ainz admits he is using Re-Estize as an example to other kingdoms. Zanak demands to know Ainz's ultimate goal, and in a moment of genuine honesty, Ainz admits he is seeking happiness. Returning to his army, a group of nobles are so terrified they betray him. The traitors beg Ainz for mercy and present him Zanak's severed head. Ainz then hands the traitors to Neuronist at the frozen prison, promising them they will receive mercy. That mercy being death once they have begged Neuronist to kill them to escape her expert torture. Disgusted by the noble's actions, Ainz hands his army to Cocytus and Mare with the order to completely massacre Re-Estize using any method they desire. Ramposa mourns the death of his son, believing it marks the end of his kingdom. Shaltair retrieves 8 fingers, including Kakodal, whom she gives to Kyuhuku to test Kako's loyalty. As Ainz advances on the capital, Azuth flies to stop them and fights Albedo. Ainz is ambushed by another warrior in platinum armor, Riku Aganea, who traps Ainz in a barrier he cannot break. Ainz realizes the armor is being controlled remotely and battles Aganea after he refuses to become a subordinate. Backed into a corner, Ainz takes the unusual decision to kneel and beg for mercy, claiming he is the victim. Aganea agrees but claims Ainz went too far, so he has to die. Albedo breaks into the barrier to defend him, causing Aganea to retreat and regroup with Azuth. Aganea is revealed to be Sindorcus Vasion, the Platinum Dragon Lord. He is curious that Albedo broke the barrier while Ainz could not, meaning either Albedo possesses a world item or she is actually stronger than Ainz. He theorizes Albedo might actually be a player and Ainz an NPC, and begins making plans to destroy them both. He also considers whether to kill Azuth in order to give his Yggdrasil armor to someone stronger. Ainz and Albedo return to Nazarick, where it is revealed Ainz was actually Pandora's actor, and the real Ainz was observing the battle from Nazarick. He demands Pandora's actor tell him everything he learned about Riku Aganea. Ainz is curious about Aganea's barrier skill, which Albedo only broke as she carries Ginnungagap, the world item Ainz gave her. Ainz concludes Aganea must defeat them again, so they can learn more, though he is reluctant in case he is killed and cannot be resurrected. Renner visits Brain, Lacus, and the Blue Roses in Re-Estize, where the Blue Roses betray Lacus, poisoning and beating her until she is too weak to resist Evil Eye's hypnosis. They reveal that Lacus planned to stay in Re-Estize to fight, so they decided to take her with them by force to keep her alive. Preparing to teleport out of Re-Estize, they offer to take Brain and Renner with them to safety in a distant kingdom wiped out centuries ago, which they decline. Brain in particular refuses as he hopes to duel Ainz, but he gives Gazef's sword to Renner and climb to return to Ramposa. Cocytus and Aura arrive and begin destroying the city. Brain, while searching for Ainz, encounters Cocytus, who agrees to duel him after a brief introduction. Despite his training and increased abilities, Brain is killed instantly. Cocytus is impressed at Brain's skill and warrior spirit. Following Ainz's lessons on strategic thinking, Cocytus reasons that Brain might have value, so he collects Brain's sword as a trophy and has his body frozen to potentially be resurrected later should Ainz wish it. As the attack on Capital continues, Renner convinces Ramposa have Climb hide the royal treasures around the city, hoping Ainz will want to obtain them and thus spare more people. Elsewhere, Aura raids the city's Magicians Guild. After completing his mission, Climb returns to the palace only to find Ainz on the throne and Ramposa dead. Believing Ainz forces Renner into killing her father, Climb challenges the Sorcerer King to a duel, but is easily killed. However, he is later resurrected and finds that Renner is a demon now. While Renner claims that she was forced to swear loyalty to Ainz, a later conversation with Albedo reveals that she willingly sold out her country. Meanwhile, Albedo visits Philip, who expects thanks for providing her a casus belli. Instead, Albedo tortures him to death, revealing that Philip's father requested that she punish him for his actions. In the aftermath of the war, Ainz meets Marquis Raven and puts him in charge of the kingdom's former territory. The Sorcerer King also asks the Marquis if this conflict made the world understand the foolishness of opposing him, to which he affirms that it did, leaving the Overlord satisfied with this outcome.